Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm bringing you my complete Fall Guys guide. We're going to be breaking down each level individually where I'm going to give my tips and tricks and movement guides. Some levels, of course, are going to have a lot more to say. Some levels are pretty straightforward, whereas others actually do have some pretty involved strategies that can help spring you into the front. And hopefully if all goes to plan, you're going to start seeing a lot less of this.
Nope.
And a lot more of this. So let's not waste any more time. Timestamps also will be below, but we're going to go ahead and start with the races first, and the first one's going to be WhirlyGig. So the reason I wanted to start with the WhirlyGig first is because right off the bat it introduces a way to gain speed, which I'm going to go ahead and just consider slope jumping, since that's how I've always known it in other forms of speedrunning. So what you're going to want to do as soon as you start descending on the slope is you're going to want to jump, and what that's going to do is it's going to give you a boost forward. It seems to give an acceleration increase for whatever reason, and on this jump, if you get your first jump off early enough, you can actually get 3 jumps in total. You saw I got one up top, one in the middle, and then one right at the base, which pushed me forward into a pretty comfortable lead right off the bat that I didn't have to deal with all the mess and congestion of people getting batted around. This next section, easy enough, climb the bricks, dodge the big fan, but this next section with the 3 propellers, if you actually go in between either two, the left or the right, you don't have to avoid them, you don't have to stop, they'll never touch you in those spots. This next propeller, another timing thing, but if you do actually take enough speed off when you're on that ramp, you won't flop when you fall. This next jump is tough, but doable with enough practice. It just requires a full jump and then a dive at the top of the jump to make it across. Doing this, you bypass some platforms and hit a checkpoint early, that way in case you do actually fail that jump, you'll typically end up on the platform still anyways. And that just leaves that last jump with the slow spinning propeller, that once you clear that, you'll be on your way to successfully qualifying in the WhirlyGig every time. So the next one I want to cover, which is actually a favorite of mine, is the seesaw. So the element of this one is balancing on the seesaws to try to make it across. And ultimately the main goal here is to, 1, try to stay out of the congestion. You know, the more people that you're around, the more likely you're going to fall and then end up falling off the slant on the seesaw. But the other main movement tip here is going to be to not jump when the platform is below you. When you jump when the platform is below you, it gives you a really high chance of falling too far, which will make your character flop to the ground, fall, whatever, and if the slant is too much, your character will not be able to get up in time and will just straight fall off. So you really want to make sure that you're minimizing those jumps. And then another movement tip on this is to try to stay as center on the seesaws as possible. The closer to center that you are, the less that it can actually move underneath you. It'll make it easier to make it to your next platform. And if you find yourself with a sizable enough lead, you can actually balance off these platforms with a partner. But you see here, another person who was running up front went the opposite way of me, and so we were able to just run across these platforms since we had each other weighing it off. Granted, it doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes it does, and it makes for a really easy run through. So the next race on my list is DoorDash. The object of DoorDash is to make it through the doors as quick as possible. There's going to be some fake doors that are walls, and then of course the doors that break away as you jump through it. My general guidance on this is to, unless you are in the front row, try not to be the first one to hit the wall. If you fail enough of those walls, you'll get so far behind the pack that it gets really tight at the end, and it'll make it really difficult to actually get through the last section to make it to the finish. And here comes the last wall. So what happens here is usually a massive pileup. So what you want to do is you're going to want to jump and you're going to want to dive. That's what's going to help get you out of the pile, over the pile, and then far enough forward that when the others fall, they don't land on you and prevent you from qualifying. So the next one up here is Dizzy Heights, and this one tends to be one of the simpler ones. Really, you just want to make sure that you run in the same direction as these spinning plates. You want to make sure that you're not falling to the bottom, so successfully making the jumps. And the big overarching theme that fits all of these races is you really just want to try to stay out of the congestion. When you're around a lot of the other Fall Guys, there's a really good chance that you're going to get hit like I did here, and it's really going to screw you up. Since as you can see, I fell and almost missed the plates. This next upcoming section though, with these balls rolling down the hill, there's two ways that you can go about it. You can, one, dodge them in between, as you see the most people doing, but then there's also the more advanced way, as you can see here, where you do dive under the side of them. It takes a little getting used to with the timing, but if you dive as that ball is coming, your fall guy will be on the ground, and the ball will roll right on by as you're still laying down right before he gets up. This next plate section, similar to the beginning, except for if you fail, it falls down. So this next part, very important, make sure you jump here. If you just run off, you'll fall, have to do it again. So that then brings us to another set of plates, with this time balls coming to try to knock you off. Really easy to maneuver and dodge, and should hopefully help you qualify. Next race coming up, we have Hit Parade. Hit Parade's another one that there's not a lot of real technical movement, but something that right off the bat here you can actually utilize is going a different route than the masses. And I keep stressing that a lot, is stay away from the masses. Here in the beginning, you're gonna, if you're in the back, you'll probably want to stay back a little bit unless you actually do get a free path on these little banister type deals. Otherwise, you're likely just gonna run into another person and fall off. See, even there, I still fell off anyways. Sucks to suck. But if I would have made that jump, I would have been in a lot better position. Right after those, you're going to come through these little spinning areas where everyone is really going to try to converge on this center door. But what a lot of people don't know is there's actually a side door over here. So when the center one is closed, you can actually make it through the sides. Next section, totally straightforward. You just avoid the spinning or swaying Pokeballs or Balls of Doom, however you want to look at it. And then the last little bit is a sprint up this little slime hill that if you stay on the very far right, these bumpers actually don't make it to the wall, and same applies with the left, giving you a free run to qualification. So Gate Crash is the next one, and this one doesn't have a lot of real technical or movement optimization that you can do. You're ultimately just running through the doors as they are down or on their way up, since you can still jump through them, and you just want to time them and get familiar with the actual order. So this first section, there's going to be 3, and the first one that rises is always the far left, then it's the right, and then it's the middle, and it repeats. On the next 2, they just alternate left and right, so typically you want to run at the door that is already up, because it's likely it will get down by the time you get there. This next set here, depending on your pace, it's going to drop the center 2 sections twice and then all 4 at once. This next one's easy enough, just a quick left to right, but this last one is the slide. What you want to do is aim for the one that is at its top as you are starting the slide. That one will be down by the time you make it to the bottom, and you'll be able to make the jump straight in. Which now brings us to Fruit Chute. This is another one that you really want to stay away from people, especially right here on the start. What tends to happen here is everyone clusters up, they'll jump onto this ramp, and then they'll all hit each other, collide, and get sent off. You can see here, I actually take a little pause, be patient, let them all collide with each other and get sent off, then jump onto the ramp. Have a little bobble, but not enough that I fall and stay down. So the big movement piece on this is going to be to hug the side. You want to use the pyramids to help deter the fruit away from you. If you are in the middle, you're highly likely going to get wiped up, not only by the fruit, but by that stick that just went by itself. Staying on the sides, utilizing the pyramids, and then dodging these berries that occasionally come out, and you'll have a quick, swift way to qualification. So the next quote-unquote race is going to be Tiptoe. I feel like this one's a little more logic and a little less race, but of course there is only a certain amount of people that qualify at the end of it. What you're doing here is jumping on the tiles, hopefully finding the ones that light up that take you the way, and hopefully other people are doing the falling for you. And a lesser known fact on this race, the tiles that jiggle are never the good tiles. So as you start to get closer to the end, start to pay attention for which tiles start to move. That'll also help you find the path at the end as well, because at the end it really starts to become a mad dash once people finally figure out which direction it is that takes them to the finish line. Then all you gotta do is jump in, easy qualify. So I made sure to save the best race for last, and this is Slime Climb. So this one, from what I've noticed at least, it seems like everyone that survives qualifies, that there's not a necessary race or amount of people that make it through, because it's highly unlikely that everyone's gonna make it through. So when you're up front, this is another one that you can get a little slope boost here on the jump, kind of just helps springboard you forward. But this is where there's a lot of advanced movement. You can jump on this triangle here to bypass that entire corner as I just did, to make it into the center section of those wall pushers and really give you a good speed boost in front of everyone else. This also has a jump here that you can cut out that corner, make it up onto the block. I didn't have good timing, so I got pushed off immediately. Otherwise, I would have been a whole segment in front of everyone there. This next one, you just have to run horizontally, or diagonally rather, to make sure that you don't get pushed off by the escalators. And of course, avoid the little donuts, or whatever people like to refer them as. This next part's another one of those balance parts where you have to jump from the little rolly banister thing to the next one. I typically have a hard time with those for no good reason. Following up that, you have this slime run. You can jump that corner, which you'll actually see me do later because I fail my first pass through. I think somebody holds me, and that's something that you're probably going to experience a lot as well. This one is where all the trolls really come out. They try to stop you from making it through, and I'm sure they have a really good time doing it. So as you can see here, you jump right back up this corner here, and you can get right back on. You can make it through the people pushers, and then hopefully not get held by this guy again. Perfect. Moving on. And then this last part is where all the danger really happens. This is where people lose their runs. You just have to, be slow, run forward, you run backwards to stop on the slime, and try to avoid people like the plague, because there's always going to be someone like that who's going to try to hold you in. Sometimes you just got to flex on them a little bit and then qualify. And so now that we're done with all the races, let's move into the survival games. And the first one, and the easiest one in my opinion, is Jump Club. The object of this one is to jump over the green bar and not get wiped up off the side of the map with it, which is really easy to do if you follow my method here. What I do for the first majority of the game, really until the green bar gets too fast, is I follow it all the way around. It's really hard to get hit by something that you're tailing the whole way, because really the only way that you lose is either getting outright hit by the green bar, or being underneath the pink bar when the green one comes by and being unable to jump. So eventually here, the green bar is going to get too fast to follow. And what you do then to just keep utilizing this method is transition off of following the green bar to following the pink ones. Because again, the only way that you really lose if you're confident enough to just jump over the green bar is being stuck underneath the pink and trying to jump over the green. It just creates a solid wall. And also the fun part about doing it this way too is you tend to get a first-hand look of some other people getting thrown off. Makes it a relatively simple game a little bit more enjoyable. Which then brings us to the next survival game, which is going to be tail tag. And there's actually a team variant about this that we're going to go over later. But on this tail tag, I think it's about half of the lobby ends up starting with the tail and the other half without. And the objective is when the timer runs out to have the tail in possession, and that's how you qualify for the next round. So there's a little bit of strategy to this. There's some places that you can run around that give you a lower chance of getting it taken, but my biggest tip on this is to turn on the names. As you can see, I have the names on here, and it makes it really easy to see where all the other fall guys are. So if they're underneath the bridge, trying to be sneaky, waiting for someone to run by, you know they're there because you're able to see their name, and it prevents you from running right by them. For the most part here though, I tend to just jump around this center section. I feel like it gives me the best opportunity to see people coming for me, and then also vice versa, I can see where other people are out on the map on the off chance that someone does actually make it to me. Other than that, it's really just a matter of maintaining a tail, running around, and then sometimes it's a matter of last minute yoinking one off of somebody. Next survival game is going to be Rollout. This one, pretty self-explanatory. The little platforms here shift in opposite directions. One will go clockwise, the other counterclockwise, back and forth across the 5 platforms. And ultimately what you're just trying to accomplish here is being some of the last ones still on there. This can be done pretty easily, just usually walking back and forth is pretty safe, and this is another one of those games that you really want to stay away from people. There's a lot of people that are going to try to hold you, they're going to try to push you into the little crevices in between these. It's really highly advised to just stay away. As you can see, I try to jump to some of these platforms that nobody's on, as well as these walls can catch you. So there's quite a few times like right here where I'll jump down into a section that literally no one's going to be at because I had to jump onto a wall and hope that I didn't fall off. And unless it's really steep, you're likely just going to get caught and be fine. A little pro tip on this one though is to kind of look up periodically. It gets really easy to lose track on which way is truly up. I've definitely just ran off the side because I thought I was more in the middle than I am. There's actually a little scoreboard that you'll be able to see that kind of shows you where up is, and I use that as reference every now and then if I feel like I'm getting lost on where I'm at on the wheels. But other than that, just keep moving back and forth, stay on the platforms, avoid the gaps. You can jump the smaller ones, but these larger ones like here are pretty unavoidable. And you should be on your way to qualifying and going to another round. Alright, next game is Perfect Match. This is another one that there's really not a lot to talk about. Essentially, there's just 3 rounds. The first one, there's going to be 2 fruit to memorize. Could be anything from there's a cherry, grape, apple, orange, watermelon, and banana. So it'll be one of the 2 in the first round. The second round, there's going to be 4 fruit to memorize, and it'll end up picking one of those. So it's kind of advised to try to find a group that you can find one of all 4 that connects. Makes it really easy to maneuver around. It also makes it easy to remember it. And then the third round, it's going to be one of 6 fruit. This one gets a little tough, because you're not always going to be able to find an area that you can see all 6 fruit and easily memorize them. So what I do in these circumstances is I'll just try to find as many as I can, hopefully at least 4, but 4 to 5. If I get lucky and it picks one of the ones that I see, great. If not, I'll try to follow the group, although following the group can have its disadvantages, because sometimes everyone is just following the wrong person, ends up being the blind leading the blind, and you all fall off and lose. But for the most part, try to find them yourself, and if you need to, try to rely on the people around you. I tend to look for the people that have wins. So like you see this guy here with the robot or the ninja stuff, the ones that cost crowns to get are typically the people that I'll follow if it gets to that point of desperation. And the last survival game, and my favorite one, is going to be Block Party. So Block Party, walls will kind of come up, you'll have to avoid them, you'll have opportunities sometimes left and right, sometimes it's only down the center, but what you're going to want to do is just avoid the walls at all costs. But a caveat to that is sometimes the walls have a late section that comes up that creates a bit of a funnel that's going to push you off and it's going to catch you. So when you start noticing those, that's when I typically back off the line. But my general movement guide on this is going to be to stand as near the front as possible. You'll get to see the walls as they come up, but later down the road, you'll see where it really becomes an advantage. Around the 20-second left mark, it becomes this tighter funnel with walls on each side, and it'll become a section with alternating left to right walls. Well, sometimes it gets a little too fast for your guy to actually make it through, even with good movement. So what you have to do then is try to stay away from the crowds, because while they're all getting batted around, you don't want to get knocked down by them and get taken off the side with them as well. So if you stay up front, you'll usually be found in a pretty good shape that you can, if you do get knocked over, recover and stay on the platform. And now that we're done with the survival games, we're going to lastly move into the team modes. These will be the last ones before the actual final stages, and I would be lying if I told you that I enjoy any of these. All these team games tend to pain me. You get a lot of quote-unquote teammate RNG. Sometimes you get some really good people on your team, sometimes not so much. So the first one we'll talk about here is Egg Scramble. The object of this game is to get as many points into your basket as possible, with an emphasis on the gold eggs, as they're actually worth 5 points each. And my best suggestion on what you can do to really maximize your chances of winning this is to hang back in your basket and play goalie. As you can see, just me and one person are here trying to stop people from stealing our eggs, while everyone usually is out and about trying to steal from other ones and probably not having a lot of luck doing so. So what I do here is I always just try to protect what I have. Don't let anyone take anything out. And all you have to do is beat out one other team. That's something you got to remember too in this game. You don't have to beat everyone, you just have to beat someone. As long as your team is not the last place team, you're going to qualify and live on to play another round. Which brings up the next game, Jinxed. The object of this game is to tag all of the players on the opposing team and jinx them. What's going to happen is each team is going to start with one jinx, and they're going to go around and try to tag everyone. Really, this one is just one where you're going to want to try to avoid people. Common theme here, right? What I usually do is I'll jump on this center section right off the bat. For some reason, people tend to have a hard time jumping on it, and then also if you do run around the outside of it, you tend to be moving so fast that people have a hard time tagging you. This, however, is one of the few team games where you can really take the win into your own hands. You know, if you can maintain, be the last person to be tagged and stay that way, you can really benefit your team, or vice versa. If you do get tagged early and are good at running people down, you can really help boost your team into that next round. But really, a lot of luck plays into this one, because sometimes it's just really hard to avoid people. You'll get cornered. But you know, you can do what you can by just optimizing your movement, trying to stay focused, pay attention to where the jinxes are, and just do anything in your power to try to avoid them. You can jump in between some of the side towers, use this spinny here, jump through the middle, lots of places you can go, and this is another one of those games that really benefits from having the names on, because you'll be able to see where everyone's at on the map. There'll be no question on where someone is. You'll just have to take the risk and see if they're jinxed or not if you run by them. And we have another point-based team game, so this one is going to be Hoopsie Daisy. Pretty straightforward. What you want to do is jump through the hoops. You're going to occasionally find a golden hoop that is worth 5 points. They do come up semi-regularly, so you will see some points that really get out of hand quickly. But my best recommendation on this is to really just pick an area and hold it down, and not fail jumping through those hoops. That kind of hurts you. If you are away from your teammates and are able to hold down an area and keep gathering hoops, it really puts you guys in a good position to cover the whole map and not just have everyone congested fighting for the same hoops. What I've had good success doing is really just kind of hanging out on this little spinny platform. There's one on each side, and just jumping off of it to go gather a hoop and come back to it. I feel like with running around it, it puts me in a pretty good position that I can get to them, as well as there's quite a few hoops that actually spawn right around that little spinny thing itself. I'll try to pick the side, like I mentioned, that my other teammates aren't at, and hopefully at the end of it we end up with a pretty high racked up score and we at least beat one team. That's, again, just like the Egg Hoarders, you only have to beat one team to advance. And next up is Team Tail Tag. Each team is going to start with 5 tails. You're either going to have one or you're going to not. If you have one, you're going to want to hide. If you don't, you're obviously going to want to go fetch one out. Here, I started out with one, so what I typically do in my first move is usually always to go under this little spinny guy. You know, just like I had an issue there, typically speaking, people have a problem. Although this time, both of these green guys got right through and got to me. But it happens. So after that, I'll go and chase one back down. But I tend to try to find little areas that I can hang out and get a good vision on everyone else. This is another game that benefits from having the names on. I tend to just leave them on for all of them, so that way I don't ever forget. A little sneaky thing is I will sometimes do like what this yellow guy was doing. I'll go get a tail, go tuck up into a corner and turn my back to it, and sometimes people will leave me alone for a good long while. People eventually do catch on, but it's sometimes a good tactic to just be able to hang out on for a little bit. And this is just another one of those games where there's that big emphasis on you don't have to be first place, you just need to not be last place. And sometimes it comes down to a clutch tail grab at the end. You really never know how it's going to work out. Teammate RNG is definitely a thing in my opinion, but for the most part, you know, you can kind of put it in your own hands by at least trying to finish with a tail. Rock and Roll is next. This one has a couple different strategies to it. The main goal is to push your ball through the initial obstacle course and then down into the basket at the end. But 2 real main plays kind of come in on this near the end. There is the one approach where you just try to brute force your ball at all costs and leave the other ones alone. But then there's the other where you can actually run away from your team near the end. You know, I would of course make sure that the ball is going to make it off this course first. and then go and actually try to stop the other balls. And it really comes up to you on what you want to do. My general rule of thumb is if my ball is way out front, I will typically try to brute force it. But if we're having a hard time getting through this obstacle and it's not looking like we're going to be the first ones through, I'll typically run ahead, get away from my team, and go try to stop the other team. You can see here that the red and the yellow guys were trying to stop each other's balls, stopped our balls, but since we had so many people pushing it, they had no such luck. Hoarders is another ball game. The ball games, for whatever reason, give me the hardest time. Something about the mechanics I just haven't quite worked out on how to get the really hard hits on them. But this one is another one similar to Egg Scramble, where your best offense is really going to be defense. I will go and get these initial balls back over into our area, and then I will do everything in my power to maintain them. Everyone is always trying to go get the other ones, but nobody ever really sits back to make sure that there's stay. That probably sound like a broken record at this point, but you don't have to be first place, you just need to not be last place. So once we actually have something to defend, I'll typically go back into my area, hang out there, and then make sure that they stay. And the last team game is Fall Ball. This is soccer, or an extremely annoying variant of it. It's another one of my beloved ball games, and my advice remains the same. Play defense. This is, again, more times than not, everyone is going to go try to rush to offense, try to score the balls. But if you play defense and, prevent them from getting in, you don't have to score a ton. Usually a 2-score, 3-score game is plenty to advance to the next round. But that is if somebody's playing defense. This time I got lucky. I saw a few people immediately go back and start playing defense, so I was able to rush forward and try to make a score happen. But typically speaking, I am pretty much playing goalie. I am doing everything to make sure that that ball does not score, and hopefully my teammates are helping me out on the front end and getting a point or two in. A gripe I do have with this game mode though, for some reason it likes to come up often when teams are uneven. I've seen a lot of 6v7, 5v6, 7v8, whatever it may be. I don't know why it does that. It kind of kills me that it does, but I have seen my fair share of uneven games, but I've also won my fair share of uneven games being the short-handed, so don't count yourself out right away. Just do what you need to do, play some defense, and hopefully you guys will win. And now it's finally time for the finals. And if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you also take the opportunity to follow me on my social medias as well as my Twitch channel. Links for all of those will be found below. But the first one is going to be Hex A Gone, and there's really two ways to approach this. There's one way that I have yet to make work for me, which is people dropping down the center all the way to the bottom platform and then trying to essentially remove all of the last platform so people don't land on it when they finally make it down to it. I've never left myself with enough tiles, I guess, to make that work, so I don't really generally agree with that method. The method that I tend to do is I try to stay as high up as I can for as long as I can, and I also try to do so by sabotaging some people. As you can see, you can jump some of these bigger gaps with a well-timed jump and dive, and then I'm always looking down to see how I can position myself for the next set of tiles. You can see I just transitioned from the blue to purple, and I was able to do so with quite a bit of tiles in the purple. Now I'm looking down at the yellow, and so on and so forth. Sometimes though, you do have to get a little savage. You need to cut them off and play a little dirty, because that's ultimately how you're going to win. Sometimes people will set themselves in a way just like I have with a lot of tiles, and if you don't cut them off, you might run off before they do. Sometimes, however, this one does involve a bit of luck, but if you're constantly looking around, you should hopefully be able to find a way through and then go catch that win. Next finale is going to be Fall Mountain. This one is just a dash up the hill, trying to avoid the balls and obstacles to be the last one to jump and grab, emphasis on grab, the crown at the end. You have to grab it or you will not win. So this one, I've been working out a path, and it seems to work almost every single time, but you do need to start by jumping off that yellow wedge there. For some reason, the Fall Guys fall, but I always go through this section. There always seems to be a ball that pushes it through. I'll work up, and then as I get to these little flappy spinny things, I'm going to move all the way to the left wall. The reason being is at the end here, you're going to see these spins. But if you hug this wall, you'll never get hit by him. And the same thing applies with this last one as well. You can run right by him, there's no dodging, there's no getting hit, no falling over. I was here with so much time that I was able to wait for the crown to come back down to jump and make sure that I securely grabbed it. If you hug those walls, you won't get hit by any of the balls, you won't get hit by the bumpers, you just have to get through that first couple of sections before you can do that. The next finale that we're going to cover is Royal Fumble. This is another variant of tail tag, but instead of multiple tails, there is one tail, and you have to be the person at the end of the timer to hold it. Unfortunately on this one, I don't actually have a win on it, because I've only ever actually played it once. I was only able to get this one recording of it, and this is the only time I've actually seen this game. But from what I've seen, is that a really good strategy on this is to stay on the center spinner. Similar to Jinxed, where if you run laps around the outside ring of that center spinner, you're going so fast that it makes it hard for people to tag you, but you're also able to dodge people that try to run opposite way on the spinner. This one can sometimes end up being a pile up where everyone's just constantly tossing the tail back and forth, but if you can maintain the tail and hold on to the spinner and make these jumps across like this guy did not, you should hopefully be able to find yourself with a win. But this time I was not, so I don't have a win to show you on here, but I do at least have some strategy. And now the grand finale, the very last one, Jump Showdown, which also happens to be my first win. And unfortunately, since my first win, I actually haven't gotten to play this game again, so we're gonna have to use the clip from my stream. Don't mind my ugly face down there in the corner. So this one is another variant of Jump Club, where you're just trying to not get knocked off the platform, although this one has its twists. As opposed to Jump Club, where there was only the one green lower beam, this one has two beams on the bottom that spin around, and the platforms go away underneath you. It'll eventually leave two. Sometimes they're joined, sometimes they're separated. And it's completely random. Sometimes it'll leave you completely hosed. I've seen it where it's left one that was really far away, and then that last one fell out, leaving the final two. What it's going to come down to winning this one is really good positioning on the platform to time the pillars well. The way you lose is by jumping while you're still underneath the top one, or you're set in a way that all there is a wall. You can't jump over the bottom without getting swept by the top as well. This one admittedly took quite a few playthroughs before I finally caught a win, and hopefully I'll get a chance to repeat down the road, but once you get this one figured out, it becomes pretty easy, and you just also need to avoid people. Some of the first times I did play it, people grabbed me, I got swept by the banister. I was really upset. So to sum this one up, watch out for the falling platforms, and then when you get to these final two, just make sure you're trying to time it as well as possible to be clear of the top one anytime that bottom sweeping one comes through, and you too will also get your win on this. And so to wrap up this video, since I know it's already a long one, I do want to once again thank you, and I hope this did help you. If any of these in particular did help you, leave me a comment below. Let me know which tip you hadn't seen before. I tried to make sure that some of the ones that I was giving haven't been displayed. And also follow my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/magicsilvergaming, where you can find me playing some Fall Guys amongst other games as well, and I can answer some of your questions in real time. But that is all for me. Take care and stay safe.